welcome to this edition of the Halal Food Podcast. Today we've got John Royle from the National Farmers Union who has agreed for us to have a chat about how animals are raised in the UK so that we can throw more light on some aspects of farming in the UK. As the halal sector manager, I do get a lot of questions on some aspects of farming, and I'm not a farmer myself. And I just thought John is the right person to throw some light on how animals are raised in the UK so that UK consumers and those of other consumers in the Middle East can understand what UK farmers do. So I invite John to introduce himself before we start. John.
Good afternoon, Arvel, and good afternoon, everybody else. Yeah, I'm John Royle. I'm the Chief Livestock Advisor for the National Farmers Union, representing the interests of around 37,000 beef and sheep producers in England and Wales. So a substantial number. And I look after the National Livestock Board, which effectively is the policy-making forum for the NFU.
Okay, so John, you've mentioned National Farmers Union. So somebody listening to us from, say, Saudi Arabia, what is the National Farmers Union?
Okay, so the National Farmers Union was founded well over 110 years ago now. So it's got a lot of history. First started out in London, where a group of farmers came together, where they felt they needed to represent the interests of British agriculture, the UK government, not only with government itself, but also further down the supply chain. So we represent 55,000 farming businesses in England and Wales. So we're a membership organisation, so people pay to join the NFU and they get a number of services for being a member. That may be discounts on things like insurance, on cars, but the key thing, and what we invest our money in at the NFU, we have around 300 professional staff where we support our senior office holders, so they're elected members. And I guess really we are very much focused on the policy of what underpins UK agriculture. Now that could be everything in terms of all types of livestock production, including dairy, right the way through to cereals, oilseeds, protein crops, and also horticulture.
Thank you very much, John. So I just returned from Gulf Food in Dubai, and one question that kept coming up when we interact with consumers or with buyers is how animals are fed in the UK. And the reason for this is in halal, the principles of halal promote what we call tayyib. Tayyib means something that is wholesome. So consumers want assurance as to how our animals are raised in the UK, how they are fed. So are they fed with protein from other animals? Are they fed with grains? Are they fed with grass? Can you just take your time to explain how animals are fed? So let's focus on small ruminants and large ruminants. So sheep and goats and cattle.
Okay, that's a good question, Owl. So if anybody's been to the UK, we have a very much maritime climate. So we have quite a bit of rain, and around 65% of UK agricultural land is only suitable for growing grass. So we are very, very good as a nation at growing grass. We have a long growing season from sort of early spring, it depends on which part of the country you are, all the way through to late autumn, where this country grows grass, a lot of grass. Now, whether that be in the uplands areas or in the lowland areas, there are certain parts of the country where we would grow cereals, where the land is more suitable because it's flatter, wheat, barley, oilseed rape, things like protein crops like peas and beans would be grown. But predominantly, because we are such a good nation at growing grass, we have a lot of grazing livestock. So whether that be dairy production, beef production, sheep production, and some goat production, which is linked to dairy goat production. In terms of the feed that our animals eat, and I'm going to focus on sheep to start with, I would say pretty much 95% of a sheep's diet is grass or forage based only. So they would pretty much, when those lambs are born to the ewes, and we typically lamb our sheep in the spring, so from late February through to May, depending on where you reside in the country. The ewes would probably have around 6 weeks of supplementary feed prior to lambing. So they would have mainly a sort of cereal-based diet. So rolled barley, wheat, supplemented with a bit of sugar beet pulp, and some protein within there. So that might be peas, beans, etc. We do not feed any animal mammalian protein to any animal in the UK. It's banned, has been banned since the late 90s. And having worked for government and having worked for the government's veterinary service, there is very, very stringent testing all the way through the supply chain in terms of checking not only the feed that comes into this country or feed that is produced in this country by our feed millers, and they test for these products that are in there, and they never find anything. But we maintain that really, really strict level of ensuring compliance. And I think the UK is very strong in that regard. We have some very, very strong underlying regulation which bans all feeding of mammalian meat and bone meal to ruminants and other animals. So with that regard, we have developed an agricultural system which is very much reliant on forage because we're good at growing forage, whether that be permanent pasture or herbal lays, where we sort of introduce different types of clover mixes and vetches within grass sward to make the grass more productive. So lambs in particular, I'll go back to my point where the ewes may have a bit of supplementary feed just to bring them into the peak of condition prior to lambing and ensure they've got lots of milk for those lambs. The lambs are born, generally they may be born inside, they'll spend 24 hours inside, as long as the weather is okay, they're outside and they will never come in again. They live their entirety of their life out at pasture. So typically for the first 4 to 6 months, they will be suckling their mother, ewe, whilst grazing. And the animal naturally weans itself effectively. So we would typically start selling our lambs off grass. So they're just fattened on grass, literally really from June onwards. And that season would then go all the way through until the following spring when the new season lambs start to come on board again. So I hope that reassures the people who are interested in our product, but I can categorically state that both our beef and sheep production is pretty much forage based, and we did a bit of research not too long ago where we calculated just under 80% of our beef animals are finished on a wholly forage diet. So the only supplementary feed that they would get would be cereals based, and that is generally homegrown wheat and barley that would be growing in this country, and predominantly that wheat or barley may even be grown on the farm itself.
Thank you very much, John. I think what you've just said is so powerful in a sense that is going to reassure halal consumers that, for instance, no protein from pork is used in feeding our sheep and goats and cattle in the UK, because this is a question that comes time and time again. I remember a few years ago, I was with you on a farm in Leicestershire where this question came up. So thank you very much for clarifying it. And I just hope that our major buyers in the Middle East, in Europe, in the UK will hear this and get reassured that, look, this is what we feed. Our systems are mainly grass or forage based, and that no animal protein is actually fed to our animals.
Just to add to that, just to add to that as well, is that our production in terms of ruminants and pork production is very, very different. So farmers will specialise. You would get a very much specialist pig producer that wouldn't be really producing beef or lamb. So, in pretty much all cases, beef and sheep production is a very much specialised process linked to where you farm in the country. So, and because it's very extensive, you wouldn't be keeping pigs anyway. So they're not even on the same farm.
Nice one. Thank you very much, John, for clarifying this. Another thing you mentioned, which many people may need some clarification on, is we said that we've got vast lands in the UK. Most of it is suitable for the growth of grass. So somebody may be asking, so if it's good for the growth of grass, why can it be good for arables? So for maize, cereal, and other things. Can you just let us know what the difference is in terms of suitability for grass, for growth of grass, and suitability for arable agriculture?
Yeah, sure. So we've got lots of different soil types in the UK. So although we don't have particularly high mountains, they are such that the climate and the soil depth and the rockiness of the ground, even though it gets good grass cover, the soil layer, the top layer, is simply not suitable for running large arable machinery over that land. So it's not possible to plough it, cultivate it, and then plant a crop that would then grow and give a sufficient return in terms of the tonnage that we would expect. Many of our farms are smaller family farms. They are smaller fields enclosed by hedges and stone walls, very traditional in some ways. And the vast majority of the UK, whether it be in the southwest of the country or in Wales, in the north east and northwest of England, is very much upland areas, and it's not suitable for growing arable crops because we pride ourselves in the UK as being very sort of technologically advanced in terms of the equipment that we use. Our productivity is really quite important. So the equipment and the tractors and the combines and the sowing equipment and such, it's of sufficient size. It doesn't really work very well in some of these very much smaller fields.
Yeah.
Saying that, having a good combination of livestock and arable in the locality also is quite important because our livestock farmers very much like to buy the straw off the arable farmers. So because we have fairly inclement wet weather and sometimes snowy weather in the UK, we will bring our animals in during the winter to house them in large sheds, open barns, and we bed them down with straw. So it's quite important that having that availability of straw to come from the arable areas into the livestock areas is really, really quite important. But predominantly the livestock farmers will grow their own forage, so they will set aside fields to grow hay and silage, which they can then conserve and feed back to the animals in the winter. So we tend to find our arable crops, wheat, barley, oilseeds, protein crops, are generally grown in the east and south of the country.
Thank you very much, John. Another issue I want us to tackle is the issue of traceability. Many consumers want some assurance that their products can be traced if there's any problem, or even if there's no problem, they should be assured that the product they are receiving can be traced to the farm. Do we have any systems in the UK that you can explain in terms of traceability that our buyers, major buyers around the world, can be assured that our products are traceable?
Absolutely. Well, we're world leading, I would suggest, in terms of livestock traceability. We've been doing this for many, many years, 20, 30 years. We've had very good, sophisticated national databases. So if I deal with sheep, first of all, then. So and if you're an individual farmer in the UK, you have to be registered with government, given a special registration number, and you're allocated a unique number that is unique to your farm. The systems only allow that farmer to order ear tags, so the tags that go in the sheep's ear are unique to that farm. And the systems only allow an ear tag to be issued once, so you can't replicate the same number. So the farmer buys ear tags, and he's obliged then to identify every sheep that is born on that farm. And so he registers that animal in terms of his movement books, or when the date at which he tagged that animal. So when that animal leaves the holding, the individual number and the flock number is lodged on the national database to say that moved from John Royle's farm to a livestock market on a particular date in a particular vehicle at a particular time, and that's arrived at a time, and this was the haulier's name, along with any other information about that animal. So when that animal arrives at the market, it is then allotted a pen, it is bought by somebody else, and then the market also reports to the national database where that animal went. So we have full lifetime traceability of sheep in the UK. There's a subtle difference in terms of animals under 12 months of age can move as a batch, but they are still read individually. But sheep, adult sheep, ewes and rams, and including goats, are individually reported and recorded throughout their life until they arrive at the slaughterhouse. So that is pretty unique. In terms of cattle, we'll be recording more information. So not only is the farm registered, it's issued with its unique herd number and unique individual animal numbers, So when the calf is then born, the farmer is obliged within 7 days to tag that animal, register its birth to the national database, include the date of birth, the breed, the sex, the dam ID, the cow ID, the sire ID, which we encourage, and of course, whenever that calf then moves off the holding, individually it is reported and recorded to the national database. So again, we have lifetime traceability of that animal. And the animal is also accompanied by a paper passport, which indicates the holding of origin and every location the animal has lived throughout its life. And each time it moves from one farm to the next, it has a stamp and the original keeper signs to say that animals moved off their holding. So I'd like to assure people that might wish to buy our product oil that we have very, very good traceability in the UK. We think we can get better. So we're currently designing a brand new multi-species database that relies, on, we want to remove that paper because we're all using smartphones, where we can create that movement in real time. So we have real-time traceability. So we know where those sheep are going the moment they are loaded onto that trailer. And the new sheep service, the first part of the new service, will be issued at the end of this month. So, and then just one thing I would like to say is that we don't just rely on manual reading of the ear tag where people can make mistakes. Each of the ear tags has a chip in the ear tag, so we read those electronically, so there is no mistakes. And whatever we read the ear tag with, that automatically connects to your farm software package, so there are no mistakes in terms of reporting that individual animal number to its location.
Great piece of system there, John. Thanks for taking your time to explain every bit of it. And I'm sure my listeners and my viewers in the Middle East, particularly because I keep mentioning the Middle East, that is one of the destinations we are targeting at. And they always want some assurance on feeding, on traceability. So it's great that, look, I as I said at the beginning, I'm not a farmer. It's good to have somebody who works very closely with farmers to come into this program to explain that to our viewers.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth saying, while we have traceability, and you hit the nail on the head initially, it's about food safety. If there was an issue and something was found in that carcass that the veterinary officer in that meat plant felt there's not something right there, I can trace that animal all the way back down the supply chain and do an investigation on the farm to say, well, is there something wrong? So that full traceability in terms of food safety, but also animal health, is incredibly important. So we've always got one eye on the fact that should we get an exotic disease in the UK, we have the ability then to trace where those animals have gone to, so we can go back to the farms of origin and try and find where the disease started from. So the point of animal traceability is well known to the UK. In the past we've had exotic disease enter the UK, but we've managed to deal with it because we've got good traceability.
Nice one. Thank you very much, John. I just want to add that in addition to the clarification you've done on feeding, on traceability, we also have robust halal certification in the UK. So for those of you trying to import from the UK, I work very closely with the certifiers, and I know most of them are reputable. Most of them are recognized. So for those of you in Dubai, most of them are recognized by ESMA. For those in Saudi Arabia, most of our certifiers are recognized by SFDA and SASO. So whatever you are buying from the UK, it will be supervised, it will be certified by a certifier who is a reputable or who is a recognized certifier. So we've got traceability on the farm, traceability at the abattoirs, and another layer of certification, which is the halal certification, to assure you that we've got the right products for you. Do you have something to add to the traceability again? I just got too excited when you started talking about it, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to say that we don't just leave farmers to it. Expect them to get right. Very quickly they do. But we have government inspectors that are going out on farm, randomly inspecting farms to check that you're doing it right. So they will have access to the national database, and they will say, okay, John Royle, you have 500 sheep on your farm. Let me see them. Let me see your movement records, and let me check that you have recorded that information correctly. So we have that government oversight and that National Inspection Service effectively that checks compliance from farm all the way through to the abattoir. And if there's any point of that chain that's broken, or if there's any point where the authorities aren't convinced that the farmer is doing something right, those animals aren't allowed to go into the food chain. So we have an ultimate thing there. And then one final thing there, we also have farm assurance. So again, which is an industry-led assurance scheme, which also covers traceability and feed and animal welfare, labour provision, environmental credentials, all of those sorts of things. So again, linked to our traceability, not only do we talk about the animal's identity, but also its assurance status as well. So again, it's that extra layer which goes over and above government regulation.
Excellent stuff. John, another question that comes to mind is, again, when we were out in Dubai, somebody came to me, a buyer, and said, what breeds of animals do you have in the UK? What breed of animal? There was some meat on display. He said, what breed of animal is this? What breed of animal was this from? Can you just take us through breed selection and what are the special traits or characteristics of UK breeds?
Okay, shall I start with cattle for a change then? So I think it's fair to say that UK agriculture gave the world Aberdeen Angus, Hereford, Sussex, all of these really renowned breeds now, which are used across the US, South America, in Europe. They are renowned breeds with genetic traits that give them a unique flavour and quality in terms of that finished beef animal. And they're remarkably tough animals that do extremely well on forage-based production systems. Wow. So, it's not unusual to expect that, in South America, where they also rely on probably a grass-fed system, certainly to start with, they rely on British genetics.
Great.
So a lot of our, cattle breeds, that originated in the UK are now, they're used around the world. So we would use a range of cattle breeds in the UK. And we probably see from the, the suckler herd, so genuine beef animal, they would tend to be Aberdeen Angus, Herefords, and some continental influence there in terms of Limousin cattle. So these are animals which are effectively good mothers. They're easy calving because we don't want to interfere with the cow. We want it to calve naturally. We want lots of hybrid vigor.
Let me just stop you there, John. Let me stop you there. What is calving? Most of my listeners may not understand the technical term.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So calving is the cow gives birth to the calf. What we want to do is that cow to calve naturally. So we don't want to interfere with that cow. We want her to calve that animal naturally. So we don't want calves hugely big at birth weights, because sometimes then you'd probably need a vet or the farmer to assist the cow in calving that animal, calving that calf. So we like really healthy animals that maintain their own body condition and produce lots of milk, all based on a forage diet. So whether that be eating grass outside or forage or hay inside. So we're very much focused on genetics because what we actually want is that calf to grow in terms of its food conversion rate, so turning grass into muscle quickly. So we want a beef animal really that finishes around the sort of 24 months of age, effectively, because we believe that sort of age in terms of the quality of the meat is very, very good, very tender. Because it's had a forage-based diet, the taste, etc., is very, very good. But also, we're also focused in terms of our productivity and our climate footprint, in that, the more efficient we become, and we are very efficient in the UK compared to the global average, a lot of it is based around genetics. So if you feed an animal well, it converts that feed into muscle and grows well to a suitable carcass size of the right conformation. It means we're very efficient. So we use breeds and we've used genetics and developed those over the years, and they're now highly sought after. But in terms of the sheep industry, we'd have lots and lots more breeds. We have what's called a stratified industry. So because we have the upland areas, There are some areas up in the uplands which are quite harsh in terms of their weather. So therefore, you breed a sheep breed that can withstand that clement weather. So we're talking wind, rain, snow. So we have a hardy breed, and those hardy breeds would then be crossed with another animal that produces then a breeding sheep, which is then crossed with a male animal, the ram, which has strong meat potential. So much of the lamb that we produce in the UK, the mother comes from the upland areas, comes down to the lowland areas, crossed with a meat type ram to produce a really, really good carcass, which would typically be around 19.5 kilos dead. So again, these lambs are incredibly efficient in terms of growing, having a really good start based on their mother's milk, and then obviously then growing on grass. And as I say, the genetics that we use mean that these animals finish off grass and they don't need any supplementary feeding.
So, John,
general rule. Yeah, do you want me to sort of say the type of breeds that we have then?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in before you land. Yeah. You talked about breeding for the best traits and all that. Somebody may be asking, does this genetic work affect the taste of the meat, or does it not have? Does it affect the taste of the meat in a negative way?
No, absolutely not. I think we'll be dealing with. I mean, our customers buy because it's a great quality product. Yeah. We select an animal that we know is going to have. First of all, is very fertile, so produces at least ideally 2 lambs per ewe. She's got 2 teats, so she can feed 2 lambs. So that's always quite important. Good motherability. So therefore, she has those lambs and she looks after them very well. We want her to be healthy, so we want good longevity. So we want the ewe to last many years. We want her to have at least 6 or 7 crops of lambs. But we want her lambs to grow exceptionally well. And that's why we use a ram that may be from a different breed that passes on those qualities that give that lamb the unique carcass size, growth rates, but it doesn't affect the quality of the meat. I would probably suggest that the production system in the UK, because we keep talking about forage based, we don't have feedlots in the UK, is that sort of flavour of the grass so effectively comes through in the meat, and some may say that different lamb reared in different parts of the country has subtly different flavours. So Welsh lamb might taste slightly different to salt marsh lamb or lamb reared in Cumbria. So very different.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned feedlot. Many consumers who are familiar with feedlot systems in different countries will assume that all countries use feedlot. You did say UK doesn't use feedlot. Can you just clarify that? Yes, did you mean that?
Yeah, we don't use them typically. We wouldn't, because we don't farm on that scale. So we'd have large sheep flocks. Don't get me wrong. We'd have some farmers with several thousand ewes, and that wouldn't be unusual. But the whole idea really in the UK is to utilise what we do best, and that is grow grass. And you don't want to bring animals inside and feed them expensive corn. With things that are going on in the world at the moment, we don't want to be buying in purchased feed when we can grow grass in this country, and whether it be growing grass or we can grow good quality silage, which is very digestible, high in protein, that finishes the animal without the need for purchased feed. So we don't bring animals inside to finish them. That would be very unusual. If we did want to finish animals outside, so that would be early in the new year, so sort of January, February, March. But the animals remain outside. We might just give them a little bit of supplementary feeding, but that might just be a bit of rolled barley, so just a bit of crushed cereal, nothing more than that. And that's just really just to help them along when the weather's quite inclement.
Great. Yeah, you were still talking about the breeds of sheep. Do you want to continue with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just. There's so many that we'd use in the UK. The terminal size that we typically use. So the British bred animals would be things like Hampshire Down, Suffolk.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what we tend to be using now is Texels and Charolais from the near continent. These were introduced into the UK 30, 40 years ago, and effectively now we've bred our own Texels and Charolais and Beltex terminal sires to the rams, which are different to those that you'd find in Europe. But as I sort of said before, breeding the breeding ewe, she is effectively a mix between a very much hardy hill sheep and another slightly larger hardy hill sheep to produce a mule, a North Country mule. So these are, you may see it in literature that I'll send you, but they are quite pretty looking sheep with sort of Roman noses, speckled faces, and sort of curly white wool. So they are bred that way because they are good mothers. They produce lots of milk and lots of lambs. And when crossed with that terminal ram, terminal sire, they produce excellent lambs for the market.
Nice one, John. Once again, thank you again. Now I'm gonna divert a little bit to one of the festivals we have in the Islamic calendar, and you and I have had conversations on Kurbani festival. For those of you who do not know Kurbani, just in case somebody who is watching or listening and that person doesn't know what Kurbani is, it's a festival which happens once a year where Muslims, capable Muslims, pay for an animal to be processed on their behalf. Now, John, this year is gonna fall on around the 10th of July 2022, but the animal, as you know, must be sexually mature, and sexual maturity has been interpreted in lamb to be around 6 months. That is when some breeds sexually mature. So the question I've got for you is, this year, do you think, you talked about the lambing season being around April, do you think there would be some animals that would have attained that age of 6 months on the 10th of July? And do you think, if there are no lambs that will be available, do you think we will have enough older sheep to cater for the tens of thousands of animals that will be required for the festival?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would like to say, I mean, it's what an important market. And our farmers absolutely recognise the importance of the halal trade to UK producers. They're very much focused on that. But in terms of lambing, typically, it's about market signals. So if our members realise that Kurbani is coming forward, and we spend quite a bit of time talking to our members about this, is that they can start lambing sheep naturally from early January all the way through to May. So we would have southwest parts of England, southern England, where the weather is warmer, drier, milder in the winter. They will be lambing their sheep that little bit earlier. And as I sort of said, the focus on productivity, our lambs do reach that maturity very, very quickly because they get such a good start growing with their mother because they're consuming a lot of milk and they naturally wean themselves onto grass. So there will be certainly some early lambing flocks in the UK that will have lambs that are fit for market in time for Kurbani in July, new season lamb. I think that's fair to say. In terms of market signals back to our producers, that carryover of old season lamb. So what I think the industry will be doing, they'll be very much sort of focused on the fact that if we have relationships with abattoirs, processors, that we know that orders are going to come in, then we can ensure there is a sufficient carryover of old season lamb that would meet the Kurbani market. So it's important that you and I will have this dialogue so we can inform our farmers that they're producing lambs through an extended production year to meet these various markets, because it's not just the halal market we're focused on, we're also focused on the UK retail market to ensure that we've got lamb available, British lamb available throughout the year. And that means that we have lambs coming to market throughout the year to ensure that we put the best possible lamb on consumers' plates. Exactly.
I'm happy you've clarified this, John, because last year there was a lot of rumors going around within the Muslim community that there is absolutely no way of finding lamb that would have been 6 months in July last year. Last year, the Kurbani was around 20th, but there were rumors that there was absolutely no lamb that would have attained the age of 6 months, which is the age of maturity. So I'm happy you clarified that there would be some lamb, even if the numbers are limited. And also,
Mhm.
market signals can actually, if there is assurance that farmers can get a guaranteed market and a premium for their product, some will be happy to lamb naturally around January to cater for the market.
Absolutely. Yeah, they will target their production to make sure that those lambs are fit for market, and clearly they'll be over 6 months by that time. Otherwise, we're looking at old season lambs, so we're looking at carryover of those lambs that were born probably towards April, May the previous year, and they've come all the way round, and they'll be ready for slaughter in July, and clearly it'll keep coming forward for a while yet. So yeah, I mean the industry with the right signals can accommodate this. Because we want that level of assurance and trust from the Muslim community into the British product we're producing.
Yeah, thank you very much, John, because that is something that is of grave concern to me as somebody, as a link between the agriculture industry and the Muslim community. So to interact with you today to clarify on these things, I think is excellent, and I'm hoping many people will listen or many people will watch this podcast and be informed about what actually happens in the farming sector, and also particularly around Kurban. And also we actually starting Ramadan next month, so there will be an increase in the consumption of meat. However, the good thing about Ramadan is there is no requirement for age. So
Yeah,
there is no strict requirement for age. So that is great. And I'm also hoping that some farmers will listen to this podcast because they need to know the dates for these
absolutely.
festivals. So yeah, so next month is Ramadan. Immediately after Ramadan, there will be the Eid, the small Eid, which is Eid al-Fitr. Then 2 months after that, in July, there will be the big Kurbani month for our farmers. So that is good for us to sort of discuss. Hopefully, there will be some farmers listening to it as well. So in terms of sustainability, John, it is something that the younger Muslim consumer is looking for. The younger Muslim consumer is not like our forefathers who just wanted products based on price. The younger consumer is looking for welfare, quality, and sustainability. Can you
Yeah.
assure the consumer that products that are produced in the UK are farmed to highly sustainable farming systems? The quality is good. You already talked about quality with regards to feeding and also welfare. Can you just comment briefly on these things, please?
Yeah. In terms of animal welfare, I think UK is ranked, in the sort of top sector in terms of animal welfare on farms. So I go back to good underlying regulation that covers welfare on farm, in transport, and at slaughter. We take that very seriously. There's a whole load of regulation and regulators that would check activity on farm to make sure that everything is put forward. And as well, I mentioned before that huge parts of our industry are already in farm assurance. So again, that's an additional layer of independent inspection to make sure that farmers meet the standards of the scheme, which are very much focused on health and welfare. So we take welfare very seriously. I mean, poor welfare is poor productivity. Farmers are all about making money, and lame sheep, unwell sheep that have a problem in terms of a disease are simply not as productive. So it's in all farmers' interest to maintain health and welfare of their flock. We are very, very low users of medicines in veterinary medicine in the UK. Again, we've demonstrated we've reduced our use of antibiotics in the agricultural sector by 53% in the last sort of 5-6 years. So we are very, very low users, and we would not use them prophylactically. So effectively, we don't use antibiotics to prevent something. We'd only use it in emergency cases where an animal needed it for its health and its welfare. In terms of when we do use medicines, clearly they are prescribed by the vet. The vet visits all farms. They have to at least every year. Vets are responsible working with farmers to do bespoke farm health plans. So they work with the farmer to make sure the health and welfare of those animals are well maintained. And again, the farmers would record all use of veterinary medicines. And again, there's You work for our HDB, have an e-medicine hub. So effectively, we're starting to record what medicines we use on a national database. So we can say to our customers around the world, this is what we are genuinely using in terms of medicine. And because we're low users, that would indicate that our health and welfare in the UK is really very, very good. In terms of environmental credentials, again, I've talked about the extensive nature of our beef and sheep production in the UK. We're very much reliant on forage. Growing grass is good for biodiversity. Animals defecate on land, which again is good for the biodiversity of that land. And we know that permanent pasture and grassland, because you're not turning it over through ploughing, is a great sequester of carbon. So, we're very proud that we know we're producing grass. We're very proud that we maintain hedges, field boundaries, walls, trees. All are great for biodiversity and sustainability. We also use farmyard manures as a feed for the forage, for the grass. We're wanting to rely less and less on purchased fertilizer. Again, with world activities at the moment, purchased fertilizer are incredibly expensive. When we've got this marvelous natural resource of farmyard manure, be able to use that as part of your rotation, improve your biodiversity and your sustainability of your production is really, really quite important. And also we have, finally, we have, government incentives to encourage farmers to adopt farming in a very environmental way. So where you have parts of your farm that are less productive, government will encourage you to plant trees, re-wet that area, so you get a greater range of biodiversity. So really what the farmer is doing is farming on his really, really good land. On his poorer land, he might be encouraged then through additional support from government to do really environmental good things effectively. So we're very proud of what our aim in UK, of course, to become net zero by 2040. The industry is really, really serious about doing that. We know that the consumer, particularly young consumers, are very much sort of focused on, if I'm eating red meat, am I harming the planet? Well, if you're going to eat red meat, meat produced in the UK is produced at a very low carbon footprint compared to anywhere else. And we have this ambition to become net zero in terms of being able to sequester carbon, our environmental goods, and having healthy, highly productive livestock, which clearly emit less methane.
Thanks again, John. I'm happy you've just explained all these things. They are encouraging biodiversity, planting trees, and just ensuring that the atmosphere, the systems are in place to ensure that current production systems do not jeopardize the future production of food for future generations. In Islam, there is the concept of Khilafah. Khilafah means stewardship of nature. Here, we believe that Muslims believe that God presented the earth in a balanced way, and we have no right at all as human beings to jeopardize anything or to destroy the environment. So I'm very, very happy that you explained that.
Yeah, I mean, just to say, that also extends to water quality as well. So as you know, we have quite a bit of rain, but we want to manage that precious water resource. So, it's interesting that, you'll be speaking to people in the Gulf where water is particularly precious. It's also precious here in the UK, farmers play a huge part in terms of managing flood risk, also managing water availability in terms of clean water going into our reservoirs that feed our system. So, it's incredibly important that, when we're grazing livestock and using that farmyard manure to fertilise the ground, that we do it responsibly, that we're not polluting our water courses. So again, lots of regulation there, lots of good practice operated by farmers. So it's really important for us here as well.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, John, having you on this podcast. Now, I want you to have a final word on the podcast. Assuming somebody sat in Saudi Arabia or somebody sat in Jordan, not sure whether to buy British, what do you have? What word or what comment do you have for the person to assure them that, look, our systems are fit for purpose?
Well, we have the heritage, we have the quality of land, we have exceptional farmers, that love what they do. They love their livestock. Many of them, are very, very proud that they produce an amazing product, that the quality is exceptional, and it's produced to very, very high welfare and food safety standards that has a strong history and a strong regulatory requirements that ensure that that product achieves, wherever customer is in the world, it lands there in the best condition, and you can be sure of its food safety. So we're very proud of what we do in this country, and and I think we can always continue to improve, and with the interest in sustainability, climate impact, health and welfare, we're all striving to be better. But you can be assured that the quality is amazing.
Great. Thanks so much, John. Just to let our listeners and viewers know that this recording is available on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple and Google Podcasts, and other traditional podcast platforms. So once again, thank you very much, John. And I will really want to welcome you back to this program, maybe during Kurban time, so that we can educate the consumer on what is going on in Kurban.
Excellent. Happy to do that, Alan.
Thank you very much. So I look forward to catching up another time.
Thank you.